With the socks on, I hit the party messed up. That's alright. I'm like, yo, that's $50 for a t-shirt. $50 for a t-shirt. That's just a big shit. Hi, if you guys can hear me, I just got on early to make sure this was working because it's my first YouTube live stream. And I'm going to wait until 1 p.m. to start the class though. So come on in. I think I'll go post on Facebook and Instagram. If you can hear me, tell me in the chat, please. If you can hear me okay, I'm going to turn off the music before I start the class. Uh-oh. Yay, hi. Thank you, Tina, I appreciate that. I'm glad you made it over. You guys, am I loud enough or should I try to, I don't know how to turn it up, but I can turn down the music. All the time, shock treatment, I'm doing fine. I'm just gonna make sure everybody's getting over from Instagram and Facebook. Welcome, come on in, you guys. Yay, thank you, D Baron 909, I appreciate that. Using my mind. She was always happy. Okay, guys, we're over here on YouTube going live at 1 p.m. So go in my Instagram profile, get the link, and join us for the class. 1 p.m. we're starting. Come on in, you guys. I'm going to start at 1 p.m. I'm just waiting for people to figure out how to get in here. Thank you, Corlia. I see you too. Oh, you are, Tina. Thank you. Awesome. Cool. Did anybody use the link? I guess searching it works, but if, I guess some of you guys, if you use the link, let me know. I appreciate it. And if you guys do have specific questions, I would put them now so I can add them to my list. And if I have time, I will get to them. But I'm going to try not to get distracted by the chat because I have ADD. It's not going to work out well for any of us if I get too distracted. I'm like pedaling an elliptical under my desk and listening to my music. Whatever keeps me going, right? Thank you, Maddie. That helps. Okay. I posted there. I'm gonna, everybody should be able to find their way over here by 1 p.m. We got about 4 more minutes. Maddie is going to be in the chat, and I don't know her username on here, but it's probably something like Maddie or Madeline. She is one of my interns, and she is going to let me know if there's any problems or anything. What are the best snacks to go for when craving something sweet, something dairy and sugar-free? That's a great question. I will put that down here at the bottom. Snacks. Yeah, sugar-free. Corlia. Got it, Corlia. I think I'm going to cover that, but I might have forgot, so I'll try to remember that. You'll see that I'm not a huge fan of snacks in general and why and what to do instead, but sometimes I just want something a little sweet, so I usually will do it right after a nutritious meal, but I will get into that. Thank you for that. That actually helps me a lot. And then let me just jump into Facebook here and tell people, which is mostly probably my relatives on my Facebook nutrition page. Yeah, but because I don't spend a lot of time there or here on YouTube. I wanted to do it on my phone because it's a better camera, but apparently like 45 subscribers is not enough to merit a mobile YouTube account. So sorry, YouTube, I have been neglectful, but I actually do work for a living and doing the best I can. So this works. I'm sorry, the camera probably is not great quality and not very flattering to me either, but whatever, neither is my iPhone. Okay, so got like 2 more minutes and then we will be starting. Okay, post. Post. YouTube Live. I mean, it's pretty obvious that it's there. Guess I could try to put the link in there, but I think they'll find it. I hope so. Join the class on YouTube. Search, what did you say? Juli, Keene, Nutritionist. Thank you, my dear, for that. That helps. And it's YouTube Live starting now. 1 p.m. free. Boom, there you go. All right, can't say I did not warn you. And the reason I did it on YouTube is I had some problems with my last Instagram Live was super blurry for one of us that was on there, and it was me. And I couldn't even hear, there was like feedback. I don't know what that was. And then it was gone in 24 hours. So I would like to be able to refer back to it if it's not horrible. I think it's going to be good. Literally, you guys are getting close to what I do in my everyday initial consults, the plans that people get. It's just not quite as personalized. So this is going to be more general, which is going to lead me into my disclaimer in just a minute. One second, you guys. Okay, we're at 101. I am going to turn the music off or way down. We find something more mellow than Social Distortion, but I love them. Okay, here we go. We got about 21 people in there, and I'm looking at all the questions. I'm going to see if I can cut and paste. Tina, my challenge, I eat healthy. I feel like I'm constantly eating, constantly thinking about what to eat, and constantly meal prepping. I think focusing on the constantly meal prepping is the key, rather than, and focusing on what you are trying to get in your body rather than what you're restricting yourself of, because that always backfires. Sue Urena says, I'm a volleyball player. I haven't trained with the ball for 3 weeks and only trained at home. What are some snacks during this time? That's a great question. Hi, Brandy. The family is there. Hi, fam. And Maddie's there helping me. So glad you guys are here. I'm 5'52". I can't seem to lose weight, have sugar cravings and low energy. How can I change my diet? From Kathy Martin. This is exactly what we're going to talk about. I just turned 53. Oh my God, good Lord. When did that happen? And it was hard. If you look at my Instagram post, in 2014, I just kept bubbling up. I was heavier than I was when I was pregnant. It had never happened to me before. And a lot of it was my thyroid and all the issues I was dealing with, environmental, mold, all that stuff, like biologically, biochemically, my body got all out of balance, but also I wasn't eating correctly. The stuff, I've always known the stuff and showed it to my patients and built my plans on macros, but I got a lot more specific about which carbohydrates and keto, using keto as a tool and experimenting with keto and intermittent fasting, time restricted eating, snacking versus grazing. So these are the things I'm going to talk about today. So, okay. Well, hi, you guys. I hope the other people who said they were coming can find their way over. Either way, there will be a link up for a while if I like it. This is how to lose weight, stop overeating, and thinking about eating all the time. That's this class. Basically, that's what I'm going to try to cover. And some of the questions will be covered in that. Two of the biggest questions I get are, what can I eat so that I'm not gaining weight, but I'm also not feeling hungry? And I think that it is about what you eat. It's about how much you eat. It's about controlling your hunger hormones. So the way that let's see. Oh, first I just want to say, disclaimer, I'm not a doctor. I'm not your doctor. I'm not your nutritionist. Some of you, I am your nutritionist, but for most of you who are going to watch this, I'm not your nutritionist. So I don't know your liver, your kidneys, your health history. What I'm giving you are very general principles that you can apply to your nutrition. I've been doing this 24 years now. I've seen a lot of changes in food styles and fads and diets, and I really try to stick with the science and also clinically what has worked for me and the people I work with for all these years. And I feel pretty strong in that these things will work for most of us. And if you do have like some complicated health issues or weird metabolic issues, I think they will still work. There might be a case where it's too much protein for you, and then we would have to look at amino acids, free-form amino acids, supplements, things like that. If you are a vegetarian or a vegan, this is going to be hard for you. That is part of the reason I gained a lot of weight in my 40s and didn't feel very good in my 30s, towards the end of my 30s. Trying to do a food plan like this without eating animal protein is very hard. So I don't do dairy because it does not serve me. I can do dairy here and there if I want to, but it hurts my stomach. So I just don't do it anymore. There are 3 things that I generally do not put in my diet, or I try not to. 2 things. Gluten and dairy, I keep far away from my diet. full disclosure, I like sugar. I've gone years without sugar. I've gone months without sugar, but I feel really deprived. And I found that since I had an eating disorder in my early 20s, a bad like anorexia, which is always about control, not really about food, that I don't deprive myself. And I'll tell you about how I do chocolate, and I use coconut sugar. I do create like paleo muffins, as you guys, if you follow me on Instagram, saw. So I do things that are sometimes foods. I don't call them treats. I try not to. I don't call them, I try not to make food a reward, because if food's a reward and the chocolate is my treat, then what is the nourishing meal? That's right. It just gives it a negative connotation. A lot of food is mindset, you guys. You really turning it around to what do I get to eat, instead of, that's what I always tell my patients. They get a daily food plan with their exact macros for their weight, their activity, their biochemistry. I usually have labs. They get a very specific one. I'm going to tell you guys basically how to work out macros for each meal. And then that's what you get to eat. And that's what I suggest that you focus your mind on, it, rather than no dairy, no gluten. And I would say try to do no added sugar. If you could do that for 3 weeks, 3 to 6 weeks, your entire chemistry will change. You will see the weight loss within 2 or 3 weeks. Most of the people who work with me are amazed. They're like, women in the 30 to 60 range, sometimes 25 to 60 range, whose metabolisms have shut down, who work out 2 or 3 times a day or really hard once a day, and yet still, and really watch what they eat and still are getting that weight creep, they start to lose, 2 to 6 pounds a month easily. So you can do this. Hi, Liza. Liza knows. Liza's done this. Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Okay, I'm going to try not to get distracted with the chat. If you have a question or something that's really important, you can tell Maddie, and Maddie will she'll text me if it's an emergency or important. Okay, thank you, Maddie. You're the best. All right. So all of the weight gain and the hunger comes down to a couple things. It comes down to your hunger hormones and your mindset, your mind and your hunger hormones. If you can control those 2 things, you can control your weight, I think, forever. But I'm not in my 60s yet, but I plan to revise as needed, which is what I've done my whole life, is find the info and revise my food plan. Okay. There's a couple reasons why we overeat. Our hormones. I'm sure you guys have heard about ghrelin, leptin, insulin, and cortisol. Those are the things that are really in control of why one person could eat junk all day long and not gain a pound and just look thin easily. And another person could eat salads all day or really limit their calories and still put on weight. That's the reason that doctors would say, when I was gaining weight because my thyroid went hypo, they would be like, you're eating bad. And I was like, dude, I've been a nutritionist for 15 years. I'm not eating bad. I know what I'm eating. Trust me, I know better than you know what I'm eating and what it does to my body. And in a way, he was right, because my hormones were whacked. My prolactin, my cortisol, all that was out of control. For me, it was a little complicated getting it back into control, but most of you guys can, something just popped up that said I'm live now. I hope I've been live for a while. Shoot, I think that's another channel. I hope it's not recording something else. I don't know how to use this, you guys. Hopefully, if you can't still hear me, somebody let me know. I'm just gonna keep going. I did do like a tester, but it was for earlier, so I don't know what that is. But okay, so hormones, the reasons we eat: hormones, emotions, and culture, and our habits, right? We, right now, thank you, you guys, you're awesome. Okay, so right now we're all stuck at home. I'm getting tons of people from the very start of this, just, we're sad, people are depressed, people are scared, and food is very comforting. It has become a very, comfort food, eating my feelings, all that stuff is not just cliche, it's real. Thank you, you guys. A lot of this is habits as well, culture. Like when you expect to eat, when you get up in the morning and you're a person who loves breakfast, or you just smell bacon cooking or something, it literally gets your hormones going. It gets your salivary glands, like Pavlov's dog, going, and that makes you feel hungry whether you're hungry or not. So people know about I think you guys know Pavlov's dog was a dog behavior experiments where they trained him with a bell to salivate and be hungry. Well, humans do that too. Food companies know this. So like movie theater popcorn, usually that'll make you hungry even if you're not hungry. Like the smell of certain chemicals that they put in food, like the smell of the food they pump out of McDonald's all the time, especially little kids. If your kids are eating McDonald's and you go past a McDonald's, watch their little brains light up from the chemicals. Literally, these food companies know how to make us hungry. That is what they do. So the number one thing that you can do to stop feeling hungry all the time is stop eating foods that make you feel hungrier, along with the two-parter. So eating more nutrient-dense foods, which I talk about all the time. And I don't know if it's to the point where people like glaze over and don't hear it anymore, but I'm going to give you, so you get to eat a lot of food, but it's a lot of the foods that your body needs that nourish you. And if you can do that, if you can follow some simple rules, you won't be hungry anymore. It takes 3 days when you start getting all the crap out of your system and all the addictive foods. So if you're eating breads, pasta, cereal, muffins, if you're eating processed food all day long, you're going to have a little bit of a withdrawal. That's just the way that it works. So by day 3, you're like feeling really hungry and restricted and sad, and those foods really hit your dopamine receptors and light up your brain. They also hit serotonin, which helps calm anxiety, which is fine. But then when they wear off, you need another hit, right? So you're like going in the cupboard, maybe I'll just eat a handful of Cheerios, or maybe I'll just eat a couple Wheat Thins. Nobody eats a couple Wheat Thins. You will eat more Wheat Thins. You'll be like, this is my serving, and then, no, this is my serving. I'm just going to have one more. I'm just going to eat the box and just buy another one so nobody knows. So that's how it works, and that's how they want you to eat. They want you to be overeating. So all that stuff, it's my advice that you just take that out of the house. A lot of people tell me, well, it's in the house for my husband, or it's in the house for my kids. Do you really want your kids' brains all lit up from food, drug-like foods? I don't. Like, as soon as we know better, we do better. Your kids, you will see a difference. The people I work with, when they take the principles home to their kids, they're like, well, I have mac and cheese for the kids, or kid food, pizza, frozen dinner, whatever, and then we're doing like grass-fed steak and vegetables and rice. No, feed that to your kids. I wrote a children's nutrition book. The whole idea of kids' food it's BS. Kids don't need special food. It's just going to make them overeat and or lose their taste for real foods and eat the foods that light up their brains like a pinball machine, which doesn't help their schooling. It doesn't help their concentration. It doesn't help their behavior. And then we have all these kids growing up with mood issues, depression, anxiety, health issues. There's all kinds of stuff. So the first thing you want to do for people who may be taking notes is set an eating schedule. If you're a person who grazes all day long, this is going to be really important. So what I usually do is set 3 meals about 4 hours apart. Okay, 4 to 5 hours apart. And you can start with 4 if you want. So that's a 12-hour feeding window, 3 meals. Now, if you're a person who does not wake up hungry for breakfast, you can skip breakfast. That's where we get into intermittent fasting, which I'm going to get into later. But for people who are just starting out, to stop the hunger and the grazing, this is the way to do it. 3 meals. So you get up, and if you are hungry, you do a balanced breakfast. It's going to have what I think are the 3 main macros. Protein, and I'm going to tell you how to figure out how much generally. complex carbohydrates that are unprocessed, and healthy fat, as well as, I guess it's 4, fiber from vegetables, okay? And that includes breakfast, because if you are going to eat breakfast, you need to make it blood sugar balancing, or else it's going to make you A, hungrier the rest of the day, and B, you're going to be metabolically in the tank. You're going to be gaining weight pretty much that day. No matter how restricted you are, you're not going to be able to go in and balance your ghrelin and leptin and your insulin and probably cortisol too. You're just, I mean, you could try, but breakfast, I used to notice that if I ate breakfast, and I noticed this back in high school because I was starting to develop an eating disorder then, I noticed that when I skipped breakfast, I could make it until lunch and not be hungry. But if I ate what was my typical breakfast back then, which was toast with butter and jelly, or a Danish from Denny's, or an apple or a banana, I was starving all through my first 2 classes until lunch. So that's something to consider. If you're going to eat breakfast, it has to be a balanced breakfast. Don't do a bagel, don't do toast, don't do cereal. Is one of the worst things you can eat for breakfast. Cereal is going to throw your weight loss off and make the rest of the day feel worse. Trust me. So if you're going to eat breakfast, first of all, this is a regular size plate, okay? What you want it to look like most of the time is about, see that side over? Vegetables, your little bit of complex carbs, and your protein, right? You can fill the middle of this plate up easily. I don't know, some of you guys probably see what I post on my Instagram. I easily fill this bowl, which is pretty thick, with veggies, meat, and then I'll put a half to a whole avocado on there. And when I need my carbohydrates, I put in a half cup. So most people do a bowl of rice or pasta, like that big, or a plate full, right? With a little bit of veggies and an even smaller bit of meat. That doesn't serve you. That's like eating a big bowl of sugar, basically. And it's all going to be stored as fat. It's not. You want what you're eating to be used in the next like 2 to 4 hours or eliminated, which is where the veggies and the fiber come in, right? So basically, if you are around like, let's say 180 and higher, or you're an Olympic athlete or doesn't work with me, you can do a whole cup of carbs per meal. If you are not that, you weigh under 180, 200, and you're not running marathons or a triathlete, I know some of you are, but you know how to eat, this is what you get. This is a half cup. Think of a tennis ball cut in half, fill the middle, right? I got these at, I think, Target, and they have like, this says 1/2 on the bottom. These are the best. So this is a full cup of rice. This is a half cup. This is what it looks like on that plate, right? That's all the rice, but that's all you need to keep you balanced. And what you want is to not be hungry. You want to be satisfied. We need to get used to the idea that when you eat a big bowl of rice or pasta, people are literally waiting for that buzz. They're waiting to feel high off of the food that they're eating. And that's not what I go for. That's the opposite of what you want, because when you feel that, you're going to put some weight on. So you're not going to be able to lose weight no matter what your calories are. I don't care. I mean, I've seen it for years. I know it's a big argument. I have one who's a doctor, and I know her calories were well under 1,200 a day. She was doing spin class, CrossFit, and hard teachers in Manhattan Beach. I know. And she couldn't lose a pound, and she had a little puffy, little bit of pooch here, right? So we cleaned up her gut issues and we fixed her macros. She eats way more now. She doesn't feel hungry. We did have to put some animal protein back in her diet, but she loves me. Like, she's like, did not really believe it at first, but she was desperate enough that she took a gamble and really stuck to it and tried it. And it probably took like 3 or 4 consults with me before I just checked back with her. She came back to me and she's been good for the last year. So I'm stoked about that, because now she's passing it on to her patients. All right, so set schedule times for your meals. So let's just say eat within a half an hour of getting up if you're going to eat. A balanced meal, okay? How do you find your macros? Let's say your times are 8 a.m., 12 p.m., and dinner at 6. If there is a time in the day when you feel super snacky, we're going to go back and put a snack in later to stave that off. In general, I do not like snacks, and here's why. The whole idea of snacks was something conceived by the food industry. If you go back and look at TV commercials in the 50s, that's where it started. My grandma didn't eat snacks. She was 3 meals a day. Sometimes she would skip breakfast. It was definitely, and think about snack foods. Everything we think of as snack foods are processed, pretty much junk food that's going to make us feel like grazing all day long. The reason intermittent fasting is so popular is because it's the opposite of that grazing all day long, oh no, I'm going to get low blood sugar mentality that people have had since the 80s. Like, I graduated nutrition school in the mid to later 90s, and it was still the thought back then. Be afraid of protein, be afraid of fat. As long as you ate like fat-free bagels and waffles and fat-free everything, basically, fruits, vegetables, and fat-free like grains, you wouldn't get fat. But yet obesity and heart disease went through the roof at that point. We became literally an obese nation because we started eating all these processed fat-free foods. When you don't eat enough fat and protein and veggies, you never get the hunger hormones turned off. No wonder, like, people come to me, sometimes they're just complete food addicts. And I think it's been caused by some of it emotional culture, but most of it is the foods that we've been eating. So really think about reading the ingredients, looking at your macros is the most important part, and getting rid of the stuff that you know triggers you. Whether you see it on the scale, I think you could feel it too. Once you're eating this way for a while, clean and balanced, you will know. You will eat something and go, oh, I don't feel that good. So when I do want a snack, what I do is I just take a meal, the same macros, and I cut it in half and I eat that. And that's what I encourage you guys to do. If snack means I can't make it from lunch to dinner without eating something, first of all, I think you can. But if it's going to make you overeat at dinner, then it's a convenience issue. You can still put this in any kind of a container and take it with you. You could, I've gone as far as to go into a market and get 6 ounces of sliced preservative-free turkey and an apple. So there you've got your carbs and your protein. I've done, I go to Trader Joe's, I buy an avocado, I cut it in half, take the seed out, and get their chicken salad, the one with no sugar, and dump some of that in the middle. That will keep me going at work. If I can't eat until, sometimes in the clinic, I don't get out till 8 or 9. And if I didn't bring something for dinner, or I don't have it made, that will hold me for a couple hours. So an avocado with some chicken or some chicken salad in the middle, you'll feel full. You're not going to feel hungry, and it tastes good. Set your scheduled meal times. If there is a time, so mid-afternoon has been a hard time for me before, and it was because my lunch wasn't balanced enough. It was too high in carb and too low in protein, fat, and veggies. When you start to bulk up your meals and make them more nourishing, you don't feel so deprived and you don't feel hungry. Sometimes it's also a habit. So ask yourself, it's like 3 o'clock. Am I just losing focus? Am I tired of working? That's where something like this pedaling thing under the desk that I have, or a cup of tea, a cup of matcha, like this is called Dao in a bottle. I do not sell it. It's just some Chinese herbs. L-theanine is a good one. There are things that can help your brain get focused again without you really having to eat. The best thing for your body, we know now in the last 5-10 years, is autophagy, which means letting your body have long periods of time without eating, right? The longer, the better, but not past a day. I mean, I don't think we need to fast longer than like 16 hours is plenty, maybe. I mean, if you want to do it every day, you could, but I don't think you need to do longer fast, but that's between you and your doctor and nutritionist. I'm talking on an everyday. Once you get your food balanced with this plan that I'm giving you, so you set your times, then you can start bringing it's called time restricted eating, same thing as intermittent fasting. You can start bringing your eating window, which is what they call it, shorter. If you could start eating at 7 or 8 and stop eating at 6 and don't eat anymore, that would be one of the best things you can do for weight loss and to stop all the hunger. And then if you could push breakfast back, and one of the ways we do that is using coffee or keto coffee. I do it that way. I know there's all these purists and theories that that's cheating or whatever. It works for me. It works for my patients. So I use it. The caffeine gets emulsified with MCT oil, basically, which is from coconuts, and helps with brain focus. I also put some collagen protein in it, plain, the vital peptides usually, or the Great Lakes, and then that helps your body to realize that it really didn't need food and that it can use its own stores at some point. And that also helps your body start to use fat instead of using sugar all the time for energy. So I don't think we're really hungry after 4 hours. I think the food we ate, our blood sugar went up and it dropped, and then our brain starts thinking it needs glucose. Well, guess what? Your liver can make all the glucose you need, even if you didn't eat any carbs all day. I mean, I eat vegetables all day, so complex carbs. If you didn't eat any grainy, starchy, complex carbs all day, you would be fine. So for protein, how to set your macros. Set your schedule to set your macros, take your body weight, and I go higher on protein. I think we are all, and I've thought this since the 90s, under protein nourished, and I've never seen anybody, well, that's not true. Some people have kidney stones and things like that. It's harder for them. You have to really work on digestion. You have to really clean up the gut. But for the most part, people do not do badly adding more protein, in my experience. So 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. So I'm terrible at math, but I'm going to add it up real quick. 125 times 1.5, 187. So that comes out to me to about 60 grams of protein 3 times a day, right? I only eat 2 meals a day most of the time now, and maybe a snack. But I probably don't get quite that much, especially now that I'm not getting out and doing stuff. But there was a time when I needed to lose the weight that I hit those macros. Also, protein is the only nutrient that will help you rebuild cells. And autophagy is the only thing that cleans those cells out so that we don't get cancer and things like that. So you want to set your times to eat and figure out your protein amount. There's an easy way to do it is, I would say for most of you, my weight or bigger, 5 to 8 ounces of meat per meal. 5 to 8 ounces of meat, or when you're doing eggs, egg whites only have 4 grams of protein, you guys, if it's a big egg. So you're going to have to do like 5 whites and 1 or 2 yolks, or you're going to have to put some ground meat in there. Or again, if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, I wish there was a way to do this. I don't know how to do it except using supplements. Collagen is not vegan or vegetarian, but it's one of the best proteins. And I had never felt better than when I started using collagen maybe 10 years ago. My joints and stuff, my hair, my skin, and my blood sugar and hunger all got better. So that's the Primal Kitchen. There's plenty of brands of collagen. Maybe Maddie can put the code down there for the Primal Kitchen. This is my favorite, and I don't work for them either. Collagen Fuel, they'll give you guys 10% off finally after, like, I don't know, a billion years of asking them, but JKNLA is the code. I think I can put it in there. And it's worth trying. In fact, when I really do have a sugar craving, my daughter came up with mixing this chocolate collagen fuel. I use the vanilla for fruity smoothies as well. This is a good snack if you're at home, in my opinion, because you could work your macros into this, and you could just do the protein, and it can just mix with water in a shaker bottle. That's how good this stuff is. I mix about a teaspoon of this with about a tablespoon of almond butter or peanut butter or mixed nut butter, and it's, to me, like a Reese's peanut butter cup. And there's no sugar in here. There's 11 grams of protein per 1 scoop, 70 calories, 2.5 grams of fat, and 2 carbs. Very important that you start reading these macros. Okay, so back to macros. Protein, 1 to 1.5 grams of protein per pound of body weight. Okay, you guys got that? Complex carbs, if you're not intermittent fasting, not time restricted eating, just trying to get your eating under control, you're going to add a half of a cup of carbs, which is about 30 grams of carbs. I saw Sarah just asked about fruit. Fruit counts in these unprocessed carbohydrates. So that's where this is going to go. So you have your protein, which is probably more than this, like 2 of these. You have your carbs, and then the rest of, so in the carbs, what are these things that I think you should start with? And if one of them triggers you, you take that out. Rice, I don't care what kind of rice, as long as it doesn't have sugar or a bunch of like crap on it. Potato, a baked potato is obviously much better than a potato chip, so get rid of the chips. Baked potato, roasted potato. So roast some potatoes in olive oil and fill up a half a cup and put that on your plate. Rice, potato, corn tortillas, they're okay here and there. I know they're processed, but like you can put, so for breakfast or lunch, you could put an egg scramble with vegetables and avocado and roll it up in a tortilla. Or you could do, beans are a little more dense, so about that much beans or about that much rice. So when we're allowed out again and we're going to go to Chipotle, instead of that bowl that's like lettuce and then a bunch of beans and rice and a little bit of meat with a bunch of the addictive dairy, the sour cream and the cheese. Dairy is super inflammatory and super triggers you to want to eat more. Anybody who's a cheese addict knows it hits dopamine receptors as gluten does. So that is part of why I stay away from it, among many other reasons. But so in Chipotle, what I do is I say, if I'm stuck and we're there, my daughter loves Chipotle, I get a bowl with a lot of lettuce. I tell them to give me 1 scoop of the rice or the beans, whichever I'm feeling, or half of each. Double the meat, chicken, steak, whatever you do. And then I don't know what's in their veggie products. So you'd have to get the macros and figure out if that's going to blow your carbs all over or not. And then I do an extra side or 2 of guacamole. And I don't do, and salsa. I don't do the cheese and I don't do the sour cream. Mix that all up and it tastes really good. So you could also do, I guess, a corn tortilla instead of the rice. But it's really hard to eat that much food and not be satisfied. And usually I'll just eat part of it and put the rest away for a snack later or a meal later. Oh yeah, and I forgot the veggies. Have them fill it up with as much veggies as you want. You're never getting fat or gaining weight or not being satisfied with a plate full of veggies, a good dose of protein, like 6 to 8 ounces, and a lot of healthy fat, avocado, olive oil, coconut oil. You want to stay away from the crappy fats. This was somebody's great question. I think it was Ben. Canola oil is crap. Don't eat it. I have this half-finished article. Canola oil was one of the biggest scams in the food industry. Do not eat those fake veggie oils. Canola is a weed. It's not a vegetable. Olive is actually a fruit, and so is coconut. But those are 2 of the best oils, in my opinion. If you have genetically bad cholesterol, not just bad cholesterol from eating badly, and that's something you can do with testing. I have an online lab program for those of you that want to do that. I'll do another video on that. But if you genetically have bad cholesterol, you want to do more of the olive than the saturated coconut, and you don't want to go quite as heavy on the fats. But avocado is fine for you. Avocado oil is a good one. you do need to be a little more careful and probably work with someone if you have the genetically bad. And I just don't mean your LDL is high. I mean, you do a deeper cholesterol test and you figure out what your particles, if they're big fluffy particles, you're good. If they're tiny little hard particles, you could be a person who stores fat in the wrong places, basically. So that's something to take into account. And I do take that into account. I test everybody that I work with. So, and myself and my husband, he was on a keto diet and his cholesterol went through the roof. And I was like, no, we need to test this. And he has genetically like the heart attack waiting to happen. So I cut that off real quickly and adjusted his diet. The more veggies you eat, the better. The better you learn to cook veggies, the more you enjoy them, the better. Really, like I've done a ton of videos on how to roast them with olive oil and spices, how to make big, beautiful salads, how to saute them. Don't do steamed vegetables. Don't do steamed broccoli. Don't do vegetables that you don't like. I don't like kale. It tastes bitter. I've never liked kale, so I don't make myself eat it, but I eat all the ones that I do like, and I try them periodically, and I try to make them in a way that I can grow a taste for them. Kale, it just got so trendy that it was everywhere, and I just kind of had a thing with kale. Kale and I have a thing, but most vegetables are good for you. This is a 1 cup. Do 2 to 3 cups of veggies. If you change that one thing and increase your protein and healthy fats, you will not have a weight problem anymore. People are like, veggies with breakfast? Yes. Most breakfast foods are junk besides eggs. And I usually do eggs at dinner because it's quick and easy and I've been working all day. But veggies, making a big soup or a big Instapot meal and eating for breakfast, if you're going to have breakfast, is a great thing to do. I think I did all the macros. Oh, healthy fat. 1 teaspoon to 1 tablespoon is really easy to remember. That's 5 to 15 grams. But also, most people are not going to overeat fat, protein, or vegetables. We're just not, because they're not triggering. What is the thing that most of us really want to overeat when we're restricting ourselves? The carbs. Most of us could live for months and months with no carbs. That's what keto is. Keto is so popular because people who are true food addicts, really heavy people down to like people that just have that extra 15 or 20 pounds, realize that when they stop eating carbs, they get their control back, and they can eat as much as they want of like all the fat and protein, and they still lose weight. And they're like, it's because I'm in ketosis. It's because you cut all those carbohydrates out. Carbohydrates turn to sugar, and sugar turns to fat. And when we have all the extra fat and we're eating all day long, as some people do with keto, your body still never gets rid of those fat cells, and it's just waiting for you to go back on the carbs so you can puff you back up. And if you go and look, a lot of those keto, like I'll sell you my program, people who have no credentials got really heavy again, because the minute they couldn't stand not eating any carbs again and started eating them, they were triggered and their food addiction came back and they put it all back on. So I really am a fan of using Keto Principles for a tool. And what Keto Principles mean is basically the meals that I'm telling you guys. So at first, you're going to do your protein, your complex carbs, the half a cup, your healthy fat, which is up to this amount. This is like a quarter cup, which is, I think it's 2 or 3 tablespoons, but cut up an avocado, eat it. It will make you feel so much more satiated. So when you eat that way 3 times a day, you will start to be much more balanced. If you're a person who is very used to grazing and munching all day, ask yourself first, am I really hungry? Or is this a habit? Am I bored? Am I angsty? Am I just looking for something to do? Am I getting off on the drama of feeling overweight and thinking about dieting and food all day long? Really ask yourself, and then try to find something else to do to make it to your next meal. If you really are hungry, then move your meal up an hour and just eat that indicated meal with the macros. And I suggest planning your meals out a couple days ahead and prepping your food. Because if you wait till you're starving, you're not going to do it. You're going to grab a granola bar, a bowl of cereal, or something that just sounds good and is easy to make, right? You've got to have the protein and the veggies. For me, I have to have it prepped in my fridge. Sometimes a couple days a week, I show you guys, I'm like, now I'm cooking, I'm putting chicken in the oven, or I'm doing a chicken soup, or I'm doing an Instapot with whatever, or my husband throws some grass-fed steak on the barbecue. And I was a vegetarian for years. It took me years to be able to even eat meat again, but I have never felt better. So for now, I'm going to keep doing it because my labs look good and I feel good and it works for me. And I'm in my 50s, so I've had a long time to experiment with it. Okay, so you're going to create structure around food in a positive way. You're going to think about, what do I get to eat? What are your macros? Hopefully you all have your macros written down. You all know that it's the less processed. So bread, take that out of the equation until you're at the weight you want to be at. And then maybe once in a while, a gluten-free baked good. Take the junk and snack foods out of your house. Make it be real food. A piece of fruit is real food, but it counts 3 times a day in your macro. If you want to, so start by balancing your blood sugar and get rid of the snacking all day long, right? Then what I have people do when they stop losing weight from that, if they do, or if they just want to get more metabolically adapted, and especially my athletes, the difference between you eating the right macros and becoming metabolically flexible is the difference between you being 15, 20, 30, 40 minutes into a match or a competition, depending on what you play, and everybody else bombing, your opponent's bombing and losing focus, and your body being able to make glucagon and glucose, basically make sugar out of your own fat and use that for you to keep going while everybody else is crashing. I have triathletes, I have athletes in almost every sport. This works, and it's a 30 to 40% edge that you will have if your body is metabolically flexible like mine is now. And it wasn't before. I was a get shaky 2 hours after I eat, really scared that my blood sugar was going to drop kind of person, until I figured out that that was from my food. The food I was eating was causing that, and the foods I was not eating. So a big concept is a plate full of nutrient-dense food, a bowl full of veggies, your protein. It could be this if you don't do meat. It could be eggs, but healthy fat, and then your seasonings, your spices. And there are no essential carbohydrates, you guys. We don't need grains. That's bullshit. All the fiber that I think this is supposed to be kid friendly or something, but sorry if you have kids watching, I doubt they would be paying attention, but all the fiber that we need, we're going to get from veggies. The more veggies you can learn to love and the more veggies you eat, the better your gut is going to run. It feeds your microbiome, and that governs how your body deals with calories. I don't care what age you are, this can be fixed and retrained, okay? And you get your kids used to eating half a plate with veggies. Kids think it's bad because they watch TV commercials about what to eat, just like us parents do. So cut that off, be an example of eating healthy, and they will follow suit. I also don't give choices to children. And I get a lot of people bring their families to me and their kids like, this one just won't eat, she's super picky. That doesn't fly. Like this, they'll eat when they're hungry enough eventually. I say give them a plate, a kid-sized plate with protein, veggies, and when they finish that, then they get the carbohydrate if they're still hungry, which is the rice or the pasta. If you give them the carb, they're always going to feed on the carb because their brains want that dopamine. They want that little sugar rush. Then they don't eat that, and then an hour later they're wanting a snack again. And we feel like, oh, we're starving our kids if we don't give them a snack. We're setting them up to have eating issues if we don't feed them in a balanced way. And if they say, I don't want it, or hijack the table and throw fits, you just Don't react. Just say, okay, I guess you're not hungry. It's going to be in the fridge. When you get hungry, you can eat it. I know I sound like such a mean mom, but that's the way it works, you guys. I've seen families who are like, she'll never do it or he'll never do it. And kids throw fits in my office during a family consult. Couple days of that and they eat it. And if you brings me to treat foods, sometimes foods. So if you eat healthy 80% of the time, if you're eating your macros, I think there's room for 10 to 20. So 80 to 90%. I do 90-10 or 95-5. I try to, but I'm allowed to eat whatever I want. If it doesn't make me feel good, I stop eating it. What I want you to do is say, am I really hungry? Do I need a snack? Can I eat half my meal instead right now, or half of leftovers from before with the right macros? Usually that'll keep you going. Oh, I want a piece of cake. Okay. Is there a better cake I can eat? If not, no, I want that cake. Then I'm going to have it after my next indicated meal. So that gives time for a craving to pass. It makes sure it's not an emotional issue. And you're then getting to work on making your next meal, which will keep you pretty busy when you're making real food and cooking it. If you have it prepped, fine, heat it up and eat it. Then go get your Reese's or whatever, your Who chocolate, your piece of cake, your paleo muffin. That's another thing. Try not to buy that stuff. I make it and then I'm busy and I don't want to bake that stuff all the time. My daughter, she made muffins. I added the collagen protein to half of them, which tasted so good. The recipe's on my Instagram, but like I'm not that motivated to go make it when I have a sugar craving. If you have to make it, especially now locked at home, chances are you're not going to do it. You could get out this and mix it with the peanut butter. That would hold you over as well. And that's never making you fat either, unless you eat the whole tub. So eat your next indicated meal, then snack. But really ask yourself, do I need a snack? Because remember that your body is doing cleansing in between meals. That's where fat burning happens. That's where your metabolism starts to get turned up. So where are we at? Like almost an hour. So macros, intermittent fasting. What I would do is, I told you how much protein up. So you can do 0 to 30 carbs per meal, right? The lower the carbs, the more weight you're going to lose. But at first, if you need to stop a serious snacking and eating all day habit, do 30, 30, 30. And then cut off your eating after dinner. If you really have a nighttime grazing or a nighttime binging thing, plan 2 to 3 hours after dinner. So let's say 8 or 9 o'clock, plan a balanced snack that's going to look like half or 2/3 of one of your meals. I wouldn't make it a sugary food. The most sweet thing I would do is maybe a protein shake as a treat, but the macros on this are never going to be a problem. And if you are able to if you're satisfied enough from your meals and your blood sugar being balanced and you're able to go to sleep, that's the best thing you can do is have that time after dinner. So let's say 7 or 8 o'clock until the next morning when you eat. That's when your body is learning to use the calories and to burn your own fat. And if you can get up and do a fasted workout at some point, then you just start putting on muscle. I think I need to get back in the gym, but you start putting on muscle and food becomes not such a big issue because you're not run by your cravings anymore. So intermittent fasting basically means that long hours of not eating. So what I do and the way I learned it is I did a keto coffee. I did the balance thing that I just told you guys to do. 3 meals, 1 snack if you need it in the afternoon or the evening. When you can do without it, which should be in a week or 2, get rid of it. And you'll be like, oh my God, I feel so balanced. I feel so much better. So when you can, if you can drink the coffee, and there's an article on my website about how to do keto coffee, what products I use. I do it dairy-free. I don't put butter. I don't put ghee. I don't need it. When you do it correctly, you could drink a little to wake up and then sip on it for most of the day and not be hungry until as late as 3, 4 o'clock when you get good at it. Some people do 1 meal a day. If you're going to do that, you need to be very careful that, one, that you have weight to lose, and two, that you don't get like anorexic or go too crazy with it, because it does get rid of your hunger. And three, that you make a nutrient dense meal, right? For your 1 meal. It has to have a lot of protein, a lot of vegetables, and if you're doing carbs, that's when you want to do it. You're going to do about a half a cup. There's a lot of stuff when we intermittent fast, it works so well that women especially can get hormonal issues and anxiety. I got both I would say about 10 months into doing keto seriously for the first time, and intermittent fasting in like 2016 maybe. I still had some weight to lose and I was experimenting with it, and I got really like a panic attack before bed that I hadn't had since I was like 25. So I immediately knew that it was my serotonin levels, because when we're anxious, we eat more carbs, which helps temporarily with our serotonin, which is a calming neurotransmitter. So I did two things. I went back on the L-theanine. I also took a supplement called 5-HTP. And if you guys want that, give me your email or find my email and email us, and I'll get that to you, the product. There's one from Biotics I like, Neuro 5-HTP Plus. It's a combo. That really helped the anxiety. It was almost immediate, but sometimes it takes a while till your body knows what to do with that 5-HTP to raise your serotonin. I also started putting back in carbs, a small amount, timed where I needed them. And then I also started eating earlier. So I would eat my carbs at like 2 and have a small balanced meal at 2, and then have sort of the other bigger meal at dinner time with my family. And now that I'm home, I'm doing a little different. It depends on my consult hours, which have been changing, but I can definitely plan this. I'm really trying to back things up to eat earlier and be done earlier, because sleep and circadian rhythm are two really important things to how we metabolize and not gaining weight, right? Which I would like to not do in the future. And all the science, which I've known, is pointing to getting up earlier and being done eating earlier is better. So sometimes if I see patients, sometimes I'm on the phone with you guys on the East Coast, it's like late. Like I'm done, like, I don't know, 6, 7 o'clock my time. And then sometimes I used to go to a dance class in the real world or go out on the Strand and exercise, but sometimes I wouldn't eat until 9:30 or 10. That is not healthy. And that is something that is a goal for me this year too. That's why I got this Aura ring, to track my sleep and start moving things back, which I've been doing for the most part. So the hormonal and the insomnia issues, you've gone for too long, too low on your carbs, and it needs to be backed up. It doesn't mean keto doesn't work for you. It doesn't mean you've done damage you can't fix. You can place some carbs back in. Increase your veggies. Almost everybody who gets that, they're not eating enough veggies. I thought I was, but it's hard to eat enough on one plate of food. That's why I had to add in that extra meal. More veggies, more healthy fat, more protein. Because think about it. I don't need to get a whole day's worth of calories if I'm not eating a whole day. But I do need all the nutrients that my body needs. Protein, fat, veggies. And if it needs carbs that day, then I need carbs. I eat carbs every day lately, and I haven't gained weight, and I don't want to lose any more weight. So right now, I mean, who knows? But yeah, I like where my weight's at. I go between 120 and 125, and I've been that way for a couple of years, and that's what I weighed when I was young. So before my daughter, after my daughter, I probably was like 130. It shouldn't be as hard as it is. The human body is very smart. The reason it seems so hard and we all struggle with weight issues is because of the processed, crappy ass, not real food that we eat. And that's why so many people are stuck in this cycle of restricting yourself and then binging and then overeating, and then beating yourself up, and then feeling bad, and then eating to make yourself feel better, and then hating your clothes and not fitting in anything and feeling guilty and all that crap that we go through. So nutrient density is so important. Make your meals count, okay? I'm looking at some of the questions now. Let's see. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So focus on, why am I really eating? Am I really hungry? What you get to eat. Make your list. Do your shopping, which is an experience now with decontamination and being stuck in the house. Learn how to cook. Google paleo style chicken pot pie soup, which my husband wanted when I put him on his diet. He calls this his diet, but he lost 25 pounds again in the past month, just eating the way I just told you guys to eat. And he eats way more than I recommend. But he's a big dude who works on his feet all day, most of the time. So it really does work if you are sticking to this. I'm going to take a couple questions and then let you guys go. Okay, eating fat-free in the 90s caused me to have gallstones, Kathy. Yes, gallstones are a huge issue. It can be handled and fixed, and you have to be careful eating high-fat foods, especially the wrong types of fats. I would suggest for anybody with gallstone issues to look into a pancreatic enzyme supplement, Panox as well. A lot of you guys probably, if you have any gas and bloating, you probably should be taking a hydrochloric acid with pepsin or pancreatic enzyme. Some kind of a good digestive enzyme is one of the best things you can take to break down and absorb your food, especially if you get gas eating more protein and more veggies. They can be hard to digest if your gut is not in balance and used to them, but it will pay off once you start getting those micronutrients from the veggies. Let me say, thank you, Ben. I love your comment. Ben and Liza worked with me, I feel like a couple of years ago now, and they just kick ass with it. And I love watching that. The veggies I recommend, so fruit, I would say stick with 1 serving of fruit a day. If I'm going to do fruit, I'll do fresh blueberries. You don't need a lot, you guys. When you get used to eating real food, that's sweet and that's good. Sometimes I'll do frozen blueberries in the vanilla collagen proteins shaken. To me, that's a treat. That's like, it's an all the time food if I want it to be, because the macros are good and there's nothing bad in it. It's clean. But to me, I can make it, I put frozen chunks of banana or avocado in there, and the avocado makes it more like pudding, like a pudding. You can make like an acai bowl with this stuff, but crank up the protein and crank down the fruit so that the sugars aren't off the board. Go in your computer and Google how many carbs in an apple, how many carbs in a banana. A small banana has about 30 carbs. How many grams of sugar? The grams of sugar matter because it's going to spike that insulin, and it's going to tell your body she ate too much, store it all as fat. If you don't balance it with the same amount or similar of protein, and if you don't throw the healthy fat in there. I put MCT oil or coconut oil in my protein shakes because it keeps me full longer. It tastes better, and I love the effect of the brain octane MCT oil on my brain. If you go to my website, there's a page with all this stuff that I recommend with pictures and links to Amazon or wherever you can find it. So I tried to find cheaper MCT oils that would work, and they all either didn't work or gave me stomach aches. So the brain octane is expensive, but it's one of those things I spend money on because I think it's worth it for all kinds of reasons. My mood, my productivity, my hair, my skin. It's a really good MCT. If you have candida issues or gut issues, start tiny because it will give you the runs and the die-off as it kills the candida. It can do that. It's very high in the caprylic acid, which is what we used to treat candida back in the 80s. So we probably still do. You can try that, work slowly up to a tablespoon per keto coffee or per shake. Or if I'm going to sushi, this is a Dave Asprey trick. I will take the travel packs and put it on the rice and then put 2 pieces of sushi on 1 piece of rice, and putting the MCT oil on the rice, put the fish on top. It takes the edge off from eating. Usually they put sugar in sushi rice, you guys. So it takes the edge off from all the rice and the sugar. That's a little trick. I don't do sushi, especially now. I'm not getting any sushi. We're just eating at home to try to avoid catching the virus right now. But probably in normal times, we do sushi once or twice a month. I try not to use the soy sauce. I use coconut aminos for that because of all the gluten and the sugar and the soy sauce and the salt. Ghee is okay, but ghee is the fat off of, I would do grass-fed only, and only if you're a person who doesn't get triggered by it. Really start, as you change and eat real food, enjoy it, savor it, taste your food. Really think about where is this ghee going? How is it nourishing me? Where is the coconut oil? It's nourishing my hair, my skin, my nails. It's nourishing my eyeballs, my mucous membranes. Like, the protein is rebuilding every cell so that I can age better. Like, it's going to my brain. Really think about your food and where it's serving you. And then if you pick up a bag of chips or whatever, don't beat yourself up. You ate it, move on. Do not restrict yourself. That's the worst thing you could do. Okay, so I just binged out on whatever it was, candy and popcorn at the movie theater or cereal or whatever. So when it's time for your next meal, eat your next meal. Do not restrict it. Do not cut the amount. I promise it will get you back on track and feeling better quicker than starving yourself until the next slip or binge. That's the worst thing you can do. And allowing yourself to have those, like, sometimes foods, but pushing it until right after. So if I've eaten a full meal, I'm not going to eat as much candy because I'm full. And if you do, you'll feel crappy and you'll stop. And ask yourself after, how did I feel? Did I really need that whatever cupcake or whatever it was? Was it worth it? Sometimes I'm like, yeah, it was worth it. And sometimes I'm like, I don't need that for a while, right? I haven't had real pizza in a really long time. And the last time I did was outside of a Costco in San Luis Obispo. And I just remember I just wanted it. And it was having a week and a day. And I was like, I didn't feel good. My stomach hurt after, and it really didn't even taste that good. I just let myself get too hungry. So now I'm like, maybe the next time I go to New York City, I'll have pizza and see if it's worth it then. Do you count the keto coffee in your macros for the day? You can if you're trying to hit your protein, your fats, and your, I guess it would be your protein and your fats. You can count it. I don't really worry about it, but you should have my daily food plan, Sarah, that I gave you when we first started working together. So what you could do is take either breakfast or snack number 1 and work the keto coffee into there. And if the keto coffee is not keeping you from being hungry for at least 4 hours, you're not mixing it right, or it's not working for you for some reason. So you may need to work with a stronger coffee or a better tasting coffee, or more water, less caffeine if it feels like it's too much caffeine. And then, so that's another thing. I don't use this in keto coffee. I use the Vital Peptides, which I don't think I have a code for that, but I could ask them. In fact, I've been ordering it from Full Script because Costco, I ordered it online and they said I can't get it till like the end of May, which doesn't help me now, but that stuff is amazing. You can add that to soups to get your macros up. You can add it to muffins. It doesn't have any taste. It mixes into the coffee really nicely. So my keto coffee, it's like maybe like that high. It's like, it's bigger than this mug. It's like almost 2 of these, but it's got 2 scoops of espresso. It's got a tablespoon at least of MCT oil. Sometimes I put a teaspoon to a tablespoon of full fat coconut cream in the can to make it creamy, but lately I've been lazy. So you can use those nut pods, the ones with no added carbs or sugar. But we haven't had those lately. So this morning I did 1 tablespoon of MCT oil, a little bit of Enzo's organic stevia to sweeten it, and I put 2.5 scoops of collagen. It's 2 o'clock. I haven't even thought about food, and I didn't even finish the whole cup of coffee. It's around here somewhere. So what I'll do is I'll drink a little bit to wake up, do my morning meditation, my reading and stuff, my exercise lately, stretching and stuff, and then just sip it throughout the day. And usually by the time I'm done at like 2 o'clock, I try to cut that off as early as possible. I don't even need to drink it all anymore. But if you do need to, go ahead and drink what you need, put it down. You can use those frothers. It's on my page to mix it back up because it'll kind of separate. Sip on it when you start to feel hungry or distracted or your energy starts to go down. You'll find that a very effective tool to take away the hunger cravings. Most people are like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Yeah, Dave Asprey was definitely onto something with the bulletproof coffee, but you can do it without the dairy and add the protein. It's not technically putting you in ketosis, but it's doing the job, which is managing your hunger and making you feel good and able to do what you have to do. And I can easily do workouts that way as well, even HIIT workouts. So you guys can try that. Can you talk more about the gut health issue? I think that's a whole nother class, you guys. What are your thoughts on nuts? I feel like I'm addicted to nut butter and nuts. That's Mackenzie. That's a great question. I do nuts and I do nut butters. I usually buy the packages because that's a serving size, and I won't do more than one in a day. And if I feel like I'm binging on anything, I get rid of it. I get it out of the house. If something is triggering you, there's a couple things going on. And usually it's over restricting other foods. So sometimes we feel like there's this one safe food and we will overeat it. So there's a bigger issue, I think, going on, Tina, with what you actually are eating. When somebody says, I'm triggered by this, nuts, nut butter, avocado. I mean, those are generally a healthy food, but they can be triggering. The salt, the oil, the added peanut oil. I think raw nuts are not that easy to binge on because they're not as addictive. So usually I will get rid of it. I will work on beefing up the rest of your day's food, more nutrients. Sometimes there's a supplement that needs to be added in. I would look at a good multivitamin, and I would look at taking essential fatty acids because maybe you're not getting enough salt, sea salt. Start salting your food, and maybe you're not getting enough fat in your meals. And usually adding way more vegetables helps with the nutrients. I also do Ultima electrolyte drink. At least I try to do one every other day. One every day would be better, but I forget. I drink a lot of mineral water, which has salt in it. I salt my food with sea salt. Most people are afraid of salt, and I don't see the need for that. I rarely see labs. If you have really high blood pressure and like congestive heart disease and that stuff, then listen to your doctor. You can't be on a bunch of salt. You're going to have to make an appointment or work with a nutritionist on that. But you also don't have to be like no sodium and sea salt are not the same thing. So most of the sodium comes from packaged foods. Let's see. So if you could do one serving of fruit a day would be fine. But again, a half a cup, 30 grams. 30 grams is a small apple, a small orange. Start looking this stuff up and writing it down. When I work with people, they get a list of a lot of values and foods to pick from often. Here's your proteins. Here's your complex carbs. Here's your healthy fats. So, okay, I think I hit everything. I think for the most part, if you want to lose the weight and not be hungry, stay away from grains. A lot of people start putting grains back, oatmeal, amaranth, quinoa, thinking that they're doing something healthy because it's marketed as healthy whole grain fiber. It's really not. I mean, I don't see any benefit of those things other than if you want to pad on a few extra pounds, that's what that's going to do. And it's going to make you hungry. Even the unprocessed ones. Why would you not, like if you look nutrient for nutrient, grains versus veggies, especially since they're both considered fiber to help keep you regular and feed your microbiome, the veggies pay off way higher every time with way less calorie density for way higher nutrient density. So try to look at food as an equation, but also make it taste good, which is not that hard. It's like literally basic cooking skills. You can Google paleo style meals, keto style meals, but if you're going to do keto, lots of veggies, carbs here and there, up to, I've been in keto losing weight with up to 50 or 60 grams of carbs a day myself. So it can be done. But if you're eating whipped cream and butter and I don't know, like pork rinds and all the crazy gross stuff that people just gorge on with keto, that weight is not going to stay off and it's not going to like increase your health. So if you're doing that and you need a way out, you have to work with somebody to slowly transition yourself to a plan like the one I just gave you guys, and then work into more of a shorter feed window. So start with balancing your macros, take away the cravings, and then start moving into a shorter feeding window. You guys go to Instagram or here is fine, and let me know like new topics. I'm happy to do these maybe once a month or whenever I can find the time between the people I work with. So I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much for coming. I'm so happy to have done this, and I really hope that this gives you guys enough information to get started with your own food plan. You really can get your hunger under control. It's really, I'm not hungry most of the time. And when I'm hungry, it's because it's time for me to eat a meal. And I've been on lockdown 2 weeks before everyone else because of the autoimmune issues that my daughter has. We just didn't want to take a chance. So I work with a lot of doctors and they were talking about this way before it happened. So I think that if we can do this, there's no reason you guys can't do it. Most of you probably saw my Instagram post of what I looked like in 2014. That was only like what 5 or 6 years ago. So and it probably didn't come off until like 2017. So that's it. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Maddie, for helping. And thank you, everybody, for the comments and the questions. And generally, do you count the carbs in the vegetables? Great question. I should have said that. No, vegetables are free, 100% free. I tell people to eat 3 cups, 2 to 3 cups. And if you want to eat 4, it's never making you fat. You're never binging on meat and vegetables, and nobody's ever getting fat or failing to lose weight from eating meat and vegetables. It's just not happening. So there's no reason you should be hungry. And there's no reason you have to gain weight or not lose weight to not be hungry. All right. Thanks, you guys. Thank you for joining me here. I appreciate it. I hope this will be available to watch again so that if you guys didn't take notes or you want to go back, you can. And if you can subscribe, that can be great. I could go from my phone, which has a better camera and probably a better audio, when I have 1,000 people, and I'm at like, I think 47. So bye.